say, we don't care. We are looking in Brazil at what would happen to this country if we lose our rights. We are looking at Brazil to see our potential future. Wired magazine, writing that Elon is propping up fake news and far right, even going as far to call Andrew Tate a convicted human trafficker. You guys better lawyer up. This is the game they play. They are basically claiming that Elon Musk is trying to unlock these fake news accounts that lie about everything because they are on the side of Bolsonaro. Yeah. There have been accusations of voter fraud.
What do you have for breakfast, dog?
YouTube, I believe, actually has a rule in place that they'll ban you if you argue there
What
was
else,
voter
dog?
fraud in Brazil. It's really funny how these things are playing out. I feel like there is something afoot.
I
think
said,
most of you
damn,
agree.
dude.
We are certainly being treated like chickens in a chicken coop. Whether it is corporate interests globally or political interests, whatever it may be, there are powerful individuals who believe they are smarter and better than you, and they would do evil things to retain that power because, well, they're just. This is what I was saying this on Timcast IRL. Do we care? Do I care? Does anybody care who's in charge of Chicken City? Chicken City, for those that don't know, is our chicken coop where we have a live stream running 24/7 of the chickens. Now, there is a pecking order. There is a rooster who's in charge. None of us care. They can't do anything to stop us. We can go in and take whatever we want. We take their eggs, their delicious chicken eggs. That's how I feel we're being treated. Now, the challenge for these powerful interests is that they're as human as we are, and we are able to challenge them back. And thanks to the likes of Elon Musk, defending free speech, it's not going to be so easy for them. Brazil is just one example. They want to put ex-employees in jail. That's right. Elon Musk says that their employees have been told they'll be arrested. Elon is now trying to get them out of the country, but things are getting crazy. We got a lot to break down in this story. The most important element of which, my friends, is looking at what they're saying about Brazil, the actions they're taking, and then looking at the parallel in the United States. They would throw me in prison. They would throw Crowder. They would throw, you name it, Viva Fry. He's Canadian, but yeah, they'd lock him up too. Anyone who opposes their regime with what they determine to be fake news, right to jail. Because they're evil. They are evil people. You see, I think there's good and evil. I think people who are good are trying to build and repair. They're trying to network. I think evil people are trying to destroy and steal. Evil people have their own interests in mind. But the reason why I say it's evil, and there is malicious and there is the banality of evil. People who are evil believe that they are better, they are smarter, and everything must be done their way. The only problem is they're actually really stupid. Really stupid. No single individual human can truly understand the complexities of the machine. That is all of human society. A decentralized network is the best version. And I'll give you a really simple example. At the turn of the century of the 1900s, there were reports that the cities would soon be rife with horse manure. So much so that they would be shut down. There would be piles of horse waste on every corner, and there'd be no way to deal with it. Just too many horses. It was a crisis until the automobile was invented. And then everyone kind of forgot about the horse manure crisis. Now we have climate change, they say. You see, here's the thing. Midwits, people who are kind of smart and a little above average, but not that smart, can see there's a problem and then believe direct intervention is the method to solve it when it's not. Decentralization is, right? There's a funny story out of India that I have. It might be India. It might be Pakistan. I don't know. Snakes were in this village and they were running amok and they were like, we got too many snakes. So the government said, if you bring us the head of a snake, we'll pay you for it. Now you'd think this would result in all of the snakes being wiped out. No. What happened was the villagers captured the snakes and started breeding them and then killing the babies and bringing the heads to the government because it was free money, guaranteed. It actually made the problem worse. You cannot, as an individual, solve all these problems. Now, perhaps these powerful elites are more interested in AI simply taking over and ruling for us. I wonder how that would play out. Perhaps it would be the best system. Yeah, the best system at tricking you, manipulating you, and driving you into oblivion. Let's read the news from the AP, and then we'll go through what's currently going on. Rio de Janeiro. A crusading Brazilian Supreme Court justice has included Elon Musk as a target in an ongoing investigation over the dissemination of fake news and has opened a separate investigation into the U.S. business executive for alleged obstruction. In his decision, Justice Alexandre de Moraes noted that Musk on Saturday began waging a public disinformation campaign regarding the top court's actions, and that Musk continued the following day, most notably with comments that his social media company X would cease to comply with the court's orders to block certain accounts. Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, who took over Twitter in late 2022, accused de Moraes of suppressing free speech and violating Brazil's constitution, and noted on X that users could seek to bypass any shutdown of the social media platform by using VPNs or virtual private networks. Musk will be investigated for alleged intentional criminal instrumentalization of X as part of an investigation into a network of people known as digital militias who allegedly spread defamatory fake news and threats against Supreme Court justices, according to the text of the decision. The new investigation will look into whether Musk engaged in obstruction, criminal organization, and incitement. This is the game they play. They play it here. The corporate press, one of my favorites was when the Today Show ran a fake story about me. They did this great thing where one of their crackpot lying writers included some random blog post that made crap up about me in a news article. The story was then picked up by a variety of other mainstream news outlets. NBC then removed the source, isolating themselves from the defamation. The other news platforms all began citing each other. Without naming them, you had three different platforms. News platform A said, according to news platform B, Tim Pool did this. News platform B says, according to news platform C, Tim Pool did this. And news platform C said, according to news platform A, creating a circle of fake citation. So they were all referring to someone else, in essence themselves. That's the game they play. And then they say, if you dare try to expose or call this out, you are fake news and far right. Because it's a cult. They want to keep stupid people. Whenever the corporate press or the left writes some ridiculous fake news, I actually appreciate it because it's not the ridiculous fake news I fear. It's the fake news that appears to be real. It's a big challenge, right? You get a story that says like Donald Trump, committed fraud or something, and they make it sound as real as possible. And the real story of Donald Trump's fraud is that there was no trial. It was a summary judgment. The quote-unquote victims, the lenders, said he never committed fraud and we want to do more business with him. And they said, doesn't matter. We say it's fraud. That's scary. But this is why I like the absurd fake news. Because then you can show it to people and be like, dude, they're lying to you. Don't believe it. Question everything. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you this masterpiece. From Salon, men punching random women in New York City, a desperate last gasp of the male rage fueling MAGA. That's right. Because the men who are wandering around New York City punching women in the face are Trump supporters, apparently. Oh boy. This is like they took Jussie Smollett and they just said, fire away, full auto, Jussie Smollettism. All of these guys punching women, Trump supporters. Okay, they're not literally saying that. They say, random New York City attacks are an extreme manifestation of men feeling entitled to women's time and attention. No, it is crazy people and criminals who you let out of jail based on policies overwhelmingly supported by women, then punching these women in the face. You know what I am mostly offended by? I can appreciate the article because it's easy to debunk, and you show it to someone and they're going to be like, oh, geez. It's just so absurd. It can show you how they lie about everything. What offends me the most is that I didn't make the article. Don't you know who I am? I'm the guy who tweeted that I thought it was funny women were being punched in the face in New York. And, this is what I tweeted. It's got 9.75 million views. And I love this. So MacArthur was right, responded, they hated him because he spoke the truth when no one else would. The point of this tweet, when I said I think it's funny that women in New York City are getting punched in the face, is not that in any way I enjoy the pain of any of these individuals or anything like that. It's not Schadenfreude. It's that, like, overwhelmingly people voted for what they wanted. And this was a manifestation of what they wanted. And now they're complaining about it. This is not Schadenfreude. I can explain it very simply. You have people in New York saying, I want to vote for policies in which they release criminals from jails. By doing so, you increase the risk you will get attacked by these criminals. Now, for the average person who accepts that, that's totally fine. You're allowed to vote for these things. But for the people who are screaming and complaining, and I'm like, actions meet consequences. It's ironic in a sense that the policies that were meant to make a more perfect union that they voted for have in fact made things worse. It's great irony. Irony is a form of humor. Calm down. I hope these women are safe. I hope they're not hurt. And I hope they vote to stop these things. Now, of course, some women said, I didn't vote for this and I have no choice but to live there. And it's like, I don't believe that. Sorry, you're never going to make an argument that you have to live in New York City. I can certainly understand because of issues of like criminal convictions, because of business contracts or family, you can't leave New York State, but you don't have to live in New York City and get punched in the face. I suppose if you're like a city worker, you have to. So there are some exceptions. It's not absolute. Here's the article from Salon. Men are punching random women on the streets of New York City. As usual with these kinds of diffuse and chaotic stories, there's much that is unknown, including how often it's happening, how many people are involved, or whether it's at all coordinated. Ooh, that's right. A group of men have teamed up, planned to go around punching women in the face. What we do know is it is already alarming. CNN reported that dozens of women have discussed being victims on social media and formally interviewed 6 of them. NBC News reports that there have been at least 3 arrests. CBS News reports that NYPD released images last week of a 4th man wanted for allegedly punching a woman in Union Square. Even reality TV star Bethany Frankel says she's been victimized. I'd like to introduce these women to harsh reality. Now, of course, there are many post-liberal, former Democrats, and maybe even like moderate holdouts, women, who understand the nature of reality. And that is, men are crazy. Not that men are crazy, but men are aggressive. Men are not women. And there's pros and there's cons to the behaviors of men and women, but men tend to be larger, have more muscle mass, more bone density, more skin collagen, more aggression, and thus you are likely to get, even with the slightly smaller of the population, there's slightly less men than women, you're going to get, look, if you've got 2 million people in Manhattan, it only takes 15 people to go around punching women for it to create a problem for women because they're punching lots of women. And that happens with guys. And so there are good guys. And there are more good guys than bad guys. And these good guys want to protect women. In the reality of the world, you have social norms and gender norms based on protecting women, not just from men, but from external threats. Men are the disposable gender. I don't mean that to be disparaging, but it's true. If you have 99 men, if you have 100 women and 100 men in a tribe, and 99 women die, that tribe is done. They can't have enough babies to come back from this. That woman's going to have a baby every 9 months. And then maybe in 20 years, assuming she has enough kids and some of them are female, they can try to repopulate, but an aging population will dwindle. If 99 men die and you have 100 women, they will face challenges, but likely survive because women can make more humans and men cannot. Now to be fair, women and men together make more humans, sure. But men can only literally seed and women can produce. So one man can have 100 kids in 9 months. A lot of work for one guy, but you get my point. This means that men have to protect women, at least pre-industrial civilization. Now we're in industrial era. What do men have to do? I mean, there's cops, there's guns, women can be armed. So what happens now is you enter into a society where men do protect women and they have laws as such. But over the past couple of decades, feminism has taken the front seat. Women are now voting for whatever they want. They're voting for progressive policies, sidelining men. They're not interested in the strong masculine man who will take charge. They're interested in policies that they think make sense, and that's fine. There is a voting distinction between men and women for whatever reason. You can look at the minutiae and see that some women are conservative, some aren't, but there's voting patterns at large. They then vote to release violent, deranged men, and those men will then go around punching them in the face. So, of course, instead of accepting the reality that there are gender roles for a reason, not that we should maintain them in force, but that they do exist, and women would greatly benefit from men being held responsible for these actions, and they greatly benefit from men protecting them from bad people, including other women. Instead of accepting that, they say, it's MAGA! Men feel entitled. Okay, dude, look. This is why I said it's funny. Look at this headline, okay? I wrote that I think it's funny this is happening. This is how they respond to it, okay? This is quite literally a fire truck on fire, all right? We're going to pass laws to make this city better and safer. Oh no, the consequences of our actions. That's irony, okay? I wish it wasn't happening, but come on. Here we go. Women report being assaulted by men of different races and ages. Still, across the different stories, a couple of similarities pop up. The alleged victims are mostly young and pretty, and most of them say they were minding their own business when they were attacked. Some were on their phones or reading tablets. Others were speaking to friends or daydreaming. Whatever they were doing, they were just living their lives, and that, it seems, is what enraged their assailants. Yes, crazy guys. You see, the MAGA guy isn't the dude who thinks he's entitled to a woman. It's the guy who wants to white knight, be all ripped and saying like, I'll protect you, ma'am. That's what they dream of. These guys are crazy low-value beta males who are angry they can't actually get a woman, so they attack them. Here's the problem for you, ladies. There was a video called 10 Hours of Walking Through New York as a Woman, where simply saying, how do you do, was deemed as harassment. So what do you think's going to happen when you're walking down the street and there's a guy approaching you to punch you through New York as a woman, where simply saying, how do you do, was deemed as harassment? Ripped and saying like, I'll protect you, ma'am. That's what they dream of. These guys are crazy low-value beta males who are angry they can't actually get a woman, so they attack them. Here's the problem for you, ladies. There was a video called 10 Hours of Walking Through New York as a Woman, where simply saying, how do you do, was deemed as harassment. So what do you think's going to happen when you're walking down the street and there's a guy approaching you to punch you in the face? Dude, what guy is going to walk up and intervene? Now, don't get me wrong. Me. These guys are crazy low-value beta males who are angry they can't actually get a woman, so they attack them. Here's the problem for you, ladies. There was a video called 10 Hours of Walking Through New York as a Woman, where simply saying, how do you do, was deemed as harassment. So what do you think's going to happen when you're walking down the street and there's a guy approaching you to punch you in the face? Dude, what guy is going to walk up and intervene? Now, don't get me wrong. Me, but I don't live in New York anymore. I lived in New York for a while, moved out, and I said, this place is crazy. And now I'm in West Virginia. And you know what? I ain't got nothing to worry about. You know why? Because the ladies out here are strapped. If a guy started to walk up to a woman in West Virginia where it's not very dense population-wise, and like it was in a creepy and threatening manner, the woman would simply just put her hand on her revolver in her holster and be like, how's it going? The guy'd be like, and he'd walk away. I saw a guy walking down the street with a crossbow once and a bunch of bolts, and I just was like, oh, whatever. What do you think would happen if a woman was minding her own business, walking down the sidewalk in a West Virginia small town, and some guy started walking up to her looking angry, she'd step back and she'd be like, is there a problem? And the guy reaches his fist and she'd pull out a gun. But here's the reality. No guy is going to walk around West Virginia looking for a hit because he will just get shot by one of hundreds of people. It is beginning. The bird flu pandemic panic, lockdowns, it's starting. Now, hopefully, it doesn't go beyond this. We've already seen numerous stories trying to drum up fear over a bird flu outbreak. We've heard of chicken flocks being culled, and now we have this story from the Daily Mail. Exclusive. What you can and can't eat amid America's bird flu outbreak. According to ex-FDA food chief, avoid steakhouses, salad dressing, and even some favorite desserts. Next, they're going to say avoid travel. Don't drive your car. Gasoline, in fact, can carry bird flu, I bet. Here's the fear. Going into the November election, they will have some kind of play for lockdown and control. They will need to maximize mail-in ballots and things like this. And so, of course, there's been concern about a bird flu pandemic lockdown. I don't know. Maybe this is just general sensationalist garbage from the Daily Mail. Fine. But if this narrative persists and they succeed in drumming up fear over a bird flu outbreak, which I think is absurd because there isn't really one. I think one person was found to have bird flu, but here it goes. The narrative is being seeded. This is what needs to happen if they are going to drum up this fear. It can't just start overnight. The same thing happened with COVID. You had stories popping up here and there about something in China. YouTube actually demonetized it, and then eventually it made its way here, and it ramped up very rapidly. Within 2 or 3 months, we had the lockdowns. Be vigilant, my friends, but here's the story. Daily Mail says, sorry, foodies. Experts are recommending Americans eat their steak well done to lower the risk of catching birth flu. Birth flu. You got a typo in there, buddies. And eggs must be thoroughly cooked, which means no sunny side up, over easy, or poached eggs. What? Are you kidding me? Okay, fine. Scrambled eggs, based. Okay, but sunny side up. That's the way to go. I suppose over easy is fine. Basically, you know what this is, right? Some people might not know this. Sunny side up, you crack the egg, you fry it at a low heat so it cooks through from the bottom up, but the top might be a little bit runny. Over easy, you flip it over, give a little sizzle, and you get that nice wet yolk. Pops right into the sandwich like a sauce. Even salad dressings like Caesar can be a risk due to being made with raw eggs. These are the recommendations of former FDA advisor Dr. Darren Detweiler, who said that while the risk of getting bird flu or H5N1 from food is low, eating animal products that are not properly cooked could increase the likelihood. Dude, you get sick from eating raw foods. Every menu has this. The virus has caused outbreaks on over a dozen farms across the U.S., infecting cattle and chickens and raising fears over the safety of the U.S. food supply. Last week, health officials in Texas confirmed that a dairy farmer caught the virus, making him only the second ever American to contract the disease. Dr. Detweiler told Daily Mail, transmission of bird flu to humans through the consumption of properly cooked poultry products, including eggs, is very low. The risk arises with improperly cooked eggs or poultry meat. But here he noted that eggs, poultry, and beef have to be cooked to a safe internal temperature because cooking is the kill step. Bird flu often spreads from water birds like ducks and geese to livestock like chickens, cows, and pigs. This can lead to animal meat and products like eggs and milk becoming infected. Now, there's a picture of what appears to be a nice steak. It's a little pink in the middle. Fine. What does it say? Dr. Detweiler says viruses and bird flu can travel through the inner parts of meat like steak, making it crucial to cook it all the way through, which is also known as ruining the steak, might I add, rather than eating it rare. I've had the flu before. Miserable. The last time I had the flu, I was 18. I literally thought I was dying. It was merciless. I lost like 10 pounds in a few days. I was shivering. I was pale. I asked my mom, I was like, should I go to the hospital? And she's like, you have the flu. Calm down. Drink fluids and drink Gatorade. And I got over it. But it was miserable. H5N1, bird flu, had a viral video showing a mob beat the ever-living crap out of a guy who attacked a woman. Now, it is believed this video is new. It may not be. But it's not the first story we've heard about vigilantes rising in New York because the police don't do anything. And it's been this way for some time. But the stories about women getting attacked are getting pretty serious. Now, of course, we had that viral article where this woman wrote that it was MAGA's fault that men are punching women in the face. And by all means, we can talk about the irony of many women voting for Democrat policies which explicitly state they will release criminals and then getting shocked and upset when releasing criminals results in more crime. It is a bit ironic that your utopian policies have resulted in conflict and chaos for you. But the reality of what's going to happen is you will get vigilantes. There's no other way around it. In this video, a guy hits a woman, which we've been seeing consistently for months now, and then one by one, bystanders just start beating the crap out of this dude. It's crazy. But the stories coming out of New York are getting much more worrisome. It's not just about guys punching women in the face. Look, I think there's a humor in the irony of women getting hit. And to varying degrees, it's not so serious. No, hold on. I don't think it's funny explicitly that like a guy hits a woman. Of course not. And that's what many of these leftists and conservatives wanted to play it up as. Now, what's funny is the irony. It's not schadenfreude. Do you guys know what schadenfreude is? Schadenfreude is pleasure derived from the pain of your enemies. So it's like watching someone you don't like get hurt makes you feel good. This is not that. I had a tweet where I said I think it's funny that women are getting punched in the face. It's a specific reference to women who are claiming these policies will make the city better, demanding them, voting for them, and then reaping the benefits of their own actions. It's consequences. But it's irony, which is a form of humor. Now, let's be real. I don't want anybody getting hit. I don't want anybody getting hurt. I think this is a harsh lesson. You vote to release criminals, these things will happen. But now it's getting scary, okay? And this is actually a story from March, from a month ago. I think people need to realize the severity of how bad things are in New York. And nobody thinks it's funny that they've been shoving people in front of trains, shooting people. There was one story from a couple years ago where a guy was crossing the street with his little girl, his daughter, and a car drives up and shoots him. And we got this story. Man burned woman with hot water in unprovoked Manhattan attack. You're not safe walking the streets. Now, I think the issue we have here is that everybody lives in a bias bubble. And that is, people in New York, these liberals, I love this one. There was this video during lockdown where this guy films himself going, what's going on? Everybody says that the city's in trouble and it's locked down, but I can do whatever I want, and gloating about it. And this guy was in a rich neighborhood. So what happens is the uppity, well-to-do liberals who write these blogs are like, oh, I've walked the streets and I've never had a thing happen to me, as they walk the Upper West Side surrounded by their police. Granted, many of these women are actually now getting hit, and this is why they're getting so angry. No, I will not face the consequences of my vote. Now, ain't nobody want to see this happen. Man burned woman with hot water in unprovoked attack. Check this out. Police at the attack near West 35th Street and 8th Avenue on Wednesday morning appeared to be unprovoked. It happened when the suspect, identified as 42-year-old Larry Martin, walked by the 27-year-old woman. Martin and the woman did not know each other. I think that that's appalling, and it gives the city a bad name. Gee, you wonder? If she's a tourist, she probably won't come back again. Hopefully, she's okay. She was treated for minor injuries all over her body and was expected to be okay. This is horrifying. Take a look at this. We have this from Atlanta Black Star. New York City man accused of dousing 4 women with scalding hot water in random attacks smiles broadly during unsettling court appearance. Look, Daniel Penny is facing jail. You've got the National Guard deployed, checking people's bags, and I'll tell you why. Many people are wondering why it is that these criminals are allowed to roam free. They're beating women in the streets. They're scalding them now with scalding water. But on the subway, they're going to search little old granny's bag, make sure you don't got any weapons. It's obvious. New York City fears the same thing I do, for different reasons. They fear vigilante justice. There was already a guy, back in November, fired a gun in the subway because some guy was robbing some woman. They're going to lock him up. Don't worry about it. I don't recommend firing a gun in a subway, by the way. Not that I know what you should do. Don't look at me. I'm not the expert on how these things should be dealt with. I don't have good answers for what New York should be doing other than perhaps enforcing the law and having police arrest people and keeping them in jail. But where we are now, it's getting absolutely crazy. They search your bags to make sure you do not get another Daniel Penny. Or, what was that guy's name? Oh, man, let me make sure I get it. I can't believe I forgot the Bernie Getz. That was his name. Bernard Getz. He was the guy in 1984, was on a train, said some dudes were shaking him down, so he shot him. And apparently said some brutal things, but people cheered for him. He was an anti-hero. Apparently he shot a dude. The guy was on the ground, and he's like, you don't look so bad, and then shot him again. And people cheered for it. That's crazy. They cheered for it. Nah. Look, man, you don't want to cheer for this kind of thing when society starts breaking down in this way. What you want to I get why people were happy. Crime was rampant. Like these dudes who were involved in this conflict admitted they were actually on their way to go commit a robbery or something like that. I want to be careful here because I don't have all the details pulled up. But people cheered for it. This guy, Larry Martin, dressed in an orange inmate jumpsuit, made his first appearance March 28th and smiled gleefully at photographers during his arraignment before Manhattan Criminal Court Judge Curtis J. Farber, who denied bail. Finally, someone's denied bail. But the funny thing is, you had these people in Long Island found with blood and guts in their drains and body parts strewn about, and they were released. Yeah, they said it's not bail eligible. You're free to go. And at first I thought not bail eligible meant you will not receive bail, you're going to jail. What it really meant was they were not eligible for being held. Interesting. Unbothered, Martin maintained the smiling expression throughout the entire proceeding and even appeared to laugh as he was let out in handcuffs. Martin did not appear to have an attorney at the hearing, and he did not appear to enter a plea. It was not clear if Martin intended his unsettling smile as a protest, but the case against him was no laughing matter. His arrogant manner in the courtroom contradicted the serious nature of the charges, including 4 counts each of second-degree assault and first-degree attempted assault in connection with the frightening series of unprovoked attacks during the March 6 morning commute. So this guy just decided to go randomly go around splashing people with scalding hot water. The first of 4 attacks was reported at 7:10 a.m. when a man was severely burned at East 44th Street and Lexington Avenue. I thought I said it was 4-1. Where a suspect splashed hot water on the victim's head and neck. Half an hour later, a 49-year-old woman was attacked by the same suspect at the corner of 6th Avenue, where the unwitting victim was hit with a scalding liquid in the face before she had time to react. Authorities said she sustained severe burns and hearing loss. The serial splasher struck next at 8:15 a.m. outside the Times Square subway station at the southeast corner of 7th Avenue and West 42nd Street, where a 45-year-old woman was met with hot liquid to the face. The last attack occurred at 8:40 a.m. when the suspect flung scalding water onto a 27-year-old woman's chest and hands at West 35th Street and 8th Avenue. All the victims are expected to fully recover. Previous reports revealed that Martin is a homeless man with connections to a Brooklyn shelter. He underwent a mental health evaluation at a local hospital following his arrest and could later factor into his prosecution. He had been arrested twice before. Surprise, surprise. Once in August 2021 for allegedly assaulting a 70-year-old man in Queens, and again in 2022 when he was taken into custody in connection with the same incident. Now, hold on. He was never prosecuted, and the case remains unsolved. That's what they say. Innocent until proven guilty. I'll give him that. Seriously, I think it's important. But you arrest a guy like this is the point of bail hearings. If it is a violent crime and you have a preponderance of evidence, I think it's fair we hold you. I do. I'm not a fan of cash bail. We must contend with one of 2 realities. The reason why we get so many stories about women in the gym that are snooty, entitled, and causing problems is because either men are misogynists, and when men film their skin-tight pants and their butts, nobody cares. Or women are frequently in these gyms entitled and causing problems. And I mean that seriously. It's one of 2. Maybe there is a bias. I think many women are going to say, it's not fair. These gym bros show up, they do these things, and then nobody complains. But when a woman gets mad, I think for the most part, guys aren't really filming themselves work out. But I want to tell you about the reality that men face too. See, you know, we here at Timcast, we got a personal trainer now. We're doing group sessions for the entire staff. All are welcome to join to get fit once per week. And then the rest up to you, really. And then for myself, my girlfriend and I, we are doing 3 days a week of personal training. And on top of that, I've been skating every single day at least 2 hours. In the past week, I did take just Friday off. Thought that would be appropriate to have one day where I didn't skate, but at least 2 hours every single day. So intense workouts over the past week. And we got to give a shout out to FitCast IRL. We're shouting out everybody. You watch this show, you watch TimCast IRL. The goal is to get fit by November. And I'm not saying get swole, I'm saying get fit. So if you find that you are overweight or whatever, make better choices. I think, what is the app? MyFitnessPal is the app that I use. It's awesome. It does cost money, but you get to track. Actually, I haven't even put in my food today. I'll do that right here. So today I had, we go to the most frequent. You enter in the foods you ate. I had a protein shake for breakfast. I had a half cup of rice flour, some butter, some mixed berry preserves, and then I actually had the protein shake I had today. I actually used the Fairlife strawberry milk. There it is. And let's see if I got that in. And then I track all of that, and there you go. And I think I got everything in there. It looks kind of weird. What is it? 50 grams of protein, 20 grams of fat, 72 carbs. Sounds about right. We're getting fit, ladies and gentlemen. And so I'll give them a shout out. We're going to read that chat. But let's talk about this story because it's a question of, is it that women are entitled in these gyms and causing problems? I mean, it's like never ending, never ending. Check this out. The New York Post says a personal trainer who was recording her workout at a gym has been slammed for her wild response when another gym goer interrupted her video. The fitness coach, who posts under the handle at Shaped by Shiana, has captured the attention of gym fans after she shared a clip of herself performing a set of deadlifts. But the footage has gone viral for all the wrong reasons after many noticed Shiana shoo away a fellow gym goer who stepped in front of her camera while attempting to grab weights from a nearby rack. Dude, I can't handle this, okay? The reason why I want to talk about this is because as I've begun to lift, yesterday, personal trainer was unable to come. So when he said, you know what he said? He said, I get a message that says do 100 push-ups. And I went, yes! And then I immediately started doing push-ups. And I broke them up throughout the day. I did my first 50 push-ups throughout the day periodically. Just whenever I had time, I'd be like, I'm standing here, push-ups. And then, however, by the time the show wrapped, I had only done 60. So I had to do 40 in the next half an hour before bed. But I will not back down. And in this, I have found that, let me grab this video for you. I'll play this video in a second. What I found is when I'm getting to my limit, I grunt. You know, Ian was pointing it out. He was like, I hear Tim in the room going like I don't know. It's like a natural thing where it's like, it just happens. And I remember I used to go to Planet Fitness, which everyone hates now. And is it Planet Fitness? I think it's Planet Fitness. Let me make sure this is right. Because if I'm getting it wrong, what is this? Yeah, Planet Fitness Lunk Alarm, a loud siren where they mock you when you're working out. And I'm like, I don't want to be there. And they have this thing on the wall where you like crank it and it goes, wee! And then like, they're like, if you're a lunk and you're dropping your weights or grunting, we're going to sound the alarm. And I'm like, okay, I guess you're better off buying your own weights and going home. Like, dude, the room we have where we're lifting, it's a separate room. Like, I'm not grunting when I lift because I'm trying to signal to everyone in the building that I'm lifting. It's because I'm feeling that strain and I'm trying to push as hard as I can. And so I see stuff like this and I'm like, this is why I hate all this. Because I feel like most guys don't care. All right. So here's the video. It's just a quick little one from Joey Swole. And,
he's going to lift his camera up. You're going to take a quick Snapchat with the finger, put it right back down.
Oh, I think this is not the right video. What is it? Oh, that was a different one. Here we go. Here's the video in question. So here's a woman. She's deadlifting, I guess. And then she gets mad at this guy.
A lot to go over in this video, so please bear with me. First off, Just because you're filming at the gym does not mean that everybody else has to stop their workout just for you, including putting their weights back. And secondly, you're a personal trainer and coach. How do you not know better than to work out directly in front of a dumbbell rack, let alone film?
Dude, okay, this is what gets me. This is this entitlement that these people can come into a gym, which is a shared space that everybody's paying for, and think that they can cordon off this area and it now belongs to them. This is the problem I have with these gyms. There's this viral video, Libs of TikTok posted it, where a guy's like, day 18 of scanning in with literally anything other than an ID, and he has a box of Cheerios, and he walks past the counter and scans the box of Cheerios barcode, and it goes boop, and he just walks in, and no one says anything because they don't care. Yo, there's a lot of really bad stuff with Planet Fitness, but I got to say, in my opinion, I think Planet Fitness is one of the biggest problems with working out in terms of like getting people to actually want to do it, and it's probably because many of these gyms know that people will sign up and then never come back. And actually, that's good for the gym. Here's the thing. If you have a business and you have, like a gym, you're going to have wear and tear. You're going to have maintenance, cleaning, right? So if people sign up for, I don't know what, 10, 20 bucks a month and then never come back, that's good. So what do? You shame them and embarrass them. But don't worry, they signed up with your ridiculous plan and they can't quit. But they don't want to be there because people are filming, making fun of them. You got dudes that go in the girls' bathroom. You got dudes that are doing weird stuff that I don't even want to say because trying to keep it family friendly. But this is the problem. And the lunk alarm stuff, too. It's like, look, man, I don't care what you do. I go to a skate park. People are yelling when they stub their toe. I go to the gym. Welcome to the next attempt at George Floyd. Only this time it didn't work. It was a feeble attempt, but they're still trying. This is the story of Dexter Reed, a man who reportedly opened fire on police 11 times, injuring an officer, before the officers returned fire, killing the man.
What?
And what does the media do? They show images of his graduation. They show pictures of him smiling, videos of the mother saying, they killed my baby and they killed me. All right, well, the story's actually really simple. I'll tell you. A guy was driving with no seatbelt with heavily tinted windows. The police pulled him over. He had something covering his face, refused to roll down his window. They instructed him to do so. He began to roll his window back up. Some of the officers draw their weapons and say, stop, screaming over and over again, and he doesn't. And then he appears to, in body camera footage, open fire on the officers who run in panic, screaming, shots fired, before reapproaching the vehicle, returning fire, and killing him. He was 26, I believe. Now you've got all over the media. They're saying, but why 100 shots? Why so many bullets? To end the threat. I don't know what you want. I don't know what you expect. It's a sad story. I get it. But it's a story of a guy who shot a cop and the cops shot back. I don't care if you're a cop, a mailman, I don't know, a welder. If someone comes up to you and opens fire on you, you have to defend yourself or die, I guess. But as we like to mention on this show, the quote from Solzhenitsyn about how in the Soviet Union, there was once a young member of the army, a soldier, and someone was trying to kill him. So he grabbed a penknife and defended himself as he was on the verge of being killed. And he went to prison for it, to the gulag. And he said, what should I have done? And the prosecutor said, flee. That's right. You run away. Okay. Do you see what they're doing? Do you see the point of this? The point of this is if you're a police officer, you cannot enforce the law. This is the pressure environment I talk about all the time. And the reason why I say I won't back the blue. Now, to these officers, I wish them the best. It's a terrifying situation. The officer was injured. I hope they get better. I hope it's not too serious. I hope that no harm comes to them. But let me tell you about the system that's being created by all of this.
You want some oatmeal, dog?
The purpose of this is to make sure the police know if someone shoots you, literally, you can do nothing. But don't worry. Because Daniel Penny in New York, he will do nothing to you. So what happens? It's not about the individual officers, but I think it's important you all understand this context. Police are being told, if you defend yourself from violent gang members, criminals, or even from being shot at, you're in trouble. Now, as for Daniel Penny, they know that good law-abiding citizens will smile, put their hands behind their back, and say, sorry, officer. The cops know there's nothing to worry about there. That's the negative pressure environment. It's like dog training. I'm not trying to disparage the cops, but it is. When the dog snips at you, you give him a little bop on the nose, or you don't give him the treat. You say, hey, no nipping. Don't do it.
Oh yeah, she fucked up her face, dude. Like, why the fuck would she do that? Yeah, dude, when I saw that, I'm just like, dude, fucking kill the person who fucking did that surgery on her, dude.
And then the dog stops. And when the dog does the good thing, you give him the treat. So what do we have now? When police defend
Yeah, now she
themselves
looks like
from a
a
black man who is
fucking
shooting at
Tim
them,
Burton
we will try to
character.
destroy your life. But when you arrest a good Samaritan, oh, the city leaves you alone. Why would I trust the system of policing that is adhering to this kind of reality? Well, let's go through the story. I don't see this one working, although I think it is fair to point out that conservatives fell, for the most part, hook, line, and sinker. They fell for the Ahmaud Arbery story. Laughably ridiculous. You know, look, man. The right gets itself, whatever you want to call it, only a few more brownie points above the left in terms of being able to actually understand what's going on in the world. Now, there's certainly, in my opinion, way more honest and smart people who align themselves with the anti-establishment faction, which is not necessarily conservative. But, oh boy, do they fall for this stuff. The Ahmaud Arbery story being a great example. When you had conservatives come out and go, see, we got justice for Ahmaud Arbery. That proves we're not racist. And I'm like, Ahmaud Arbery was a burglary suspect, and the McMichaels are going to prison for the rest of their lives for trying to confront him. But you can argue that all till you're blue in the face, fine. But the guy who filmed it went to prison for the rest of his life. That makes no sense. I don't think you know anything about the Ahmaud Arbery story. And here we are. Now we'll see. I don't know if it matters that the anti-establishment crowd, the right, whatever, is calling out the fake story because the left might just buy it up and go burn down cities anyway. But let me start you with this. We love it from the Washington Post. This is what evil looks like. These people are evil people. They are stupid and they are evil. The Washington Post writes, police fire 96 shots in 41 seconds, killing black man during traffic stop. You know what the headline should read? Let's just do this in real time. Let's see. Police fire. How about this? Man shoots cop. Police respond. Let's see. Police respond by firing. Here we go. There we go. There you go. I just fixed the headline for you in real time. Man shoots cop. Police respond by firing 96 shots in 41 seconds, killing black man during traffic stop. But no. We can do one better. We can do one better. Here's the headline. Let's just do this. Let's take the whole thing. Man killed after no. How about this? How about it? Man dies after shooting cop, and cop defends self. Hey, there we go. I fixed the headline for you. Now, unfortunately for everybody, it is really fun to, for those that are just listening and not watching, I'm clicking inspect on the article and then editing the code of the article to change the headline. This is not the real headline. Although it should be, it's not. Here's what they write. Dexter Reed's mother remembers the last time she saw her son alive. Mom, I'm going for a ride, he told her, before heading out in the car that he had purchased just 3 days earlier. Reed, 26, was killed that same day when tactical unit police officers fired 96 bullets at him in 41 seconds, according to Chicago's Civilian Office of Police Accountability, or COPA, which investigates allegations of police misconduct. Quote, he was just riding around in his car. Dexter's mother, Nicole Banks, told Fox 32 Chicago on Tuesday. She broke down in tears. They killed him. COPA released video footage of the shooting Tuesday and said its investigation of the officers' use of deadly force on March 20. Okay, here's a prediction for November, one that I didn't make up. There will be World War III before the election, and the election won't happen. That'd be surprising because, you know, if war were to break out, I don't see that as being an excuse to not have elections. However, I guess the argument is if war breaks out and there are elections, Joe Biden wins, but I don't know if he's the guy who can actually get a polling bump from being at war. The general idea is that wartime presidents win. I got a feeling that if a war breaks out, people will be terrified of a Joe Biden presidency. And even Trump's staunchest critics are going to be like, we'll take the crazy guy in Donald Trump and not the guy whose brain doesn't work. But the news we have right now is actually fairly alarming because it seems like, at the very least, the U.S. is gearing up for World War III. That's right. We've got two buzz phrases here at Timcast. It's either Civil War or World War III. It's never just regional conflict. It must be one of the two most serious outcomes that can possibly happen. Look, I don't know how this turns out, and there's been a lot of conversation about World War III for a very long time, so who knows? I remember back during Operation Protective Edge, I think it was called. This is it's 10 years ago in Israel. There was fear that World War III would ignite. For real. So Israel goes on this campaign against Gaza. And then I got all these journalists who cover the Middle East saying, like, if Iran takes action over the attacks on Gaza, it's going to pull in other countries. The U.S. will be forced to be involved. You're then going to see BRICS nations. It's going to light up. Fair. It wasn't a wrong assessment, but it was a little premature. Now what are we looking at? Well, now Israel's actually has gone into Gaza. There are many civilian casualties. Iran has been striking U.S. targets with proxies and militias, and there's a fear that Iran might actually launch a missile strike. They're closing their airspace for drills. On top of that, the U.S. is embroiled in war in Eastern Europe against Russia. China is now engaging in conflict with the Philippines in the South Pacific, and it looks like the pieces are lined up substantially more so than they were 10 years ago. But let's go through this and break it down. At the same time we're hearing this, support for Israel in the United States is going down because Americans don't want to be involved in war. I just have to break it to you, everybody. It's patently clear people don't like conflict. And so whether it's the nation going to war or a guy in a bar having someone talk smack, people don't want to fight. You ever see Fight Club? Great movie, by the way. I can't believe it's been 25 years. And there's that scene where Tyler Durden says your homework is to go start a fight and lose. Most people do everything they can to avoid a fight. It's the smart thing to do. And then there's that scene where it's like, you know, they shove people and then the people are just like, leave me alone. And then there's that scene where he knocks the Bible out of the priest's hand and then sprays it with water. And then the priest is like, wow, and that gets him really angry. But most people don't want to fight. The American people looking at what's going on in the world would prefer we don't fight. And unfortunately for the deep state, Joe Biden is in this wishy-washy position. And it looks like your only opportunity is to support Donald Trump. At the very least, Donald Trump is pro-Israel. Not like, you know, not pro-Israel the way the Democrats were 10 years ago. But now that Democrats fear losing, I'll put it this way. Joe Biden probably supports Israel way more in terms of military than Trump would. And he's going to pretend like he doesn't because they need the progressive vote. We'll see. But let's jump into the news. Here's a story from the Daily Mail. Joe Biden tells Iran, don't attack Israel, with Middle East on a knife edge as Tehran closes airspace for military drills, and Washington warns missile barrage could be imminent. President tells Ayatollah U.S. support for Israel is ironclad. Quote, as I told Prime Minister Netanyahu, our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and proxies is ironclad. And, I actually feel kind of bad imitating Joe Biden's voice, but sounding so clear. Let me say it again. I'm clear. We're going to do again. Oh, okay, now you don't even know what I'm saying. We're going to do all we can to protect Israel's security, Biden said at a press conference with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Biden's top diplomat, Anthony Blinken, affirmed his words and told Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, in a phone call that the U.S. would stand behind Israel if Iran decides to attack. An attack by Iran or its proxies against military and government targets in Israel are imminent, Bloomberg News reported, citing intelligence sources, with one source saying it's more a matter of when, not if. Tensions in the Middle East today flared after an Iranian news agency published a report on X saying all airspace over Tehran had been closed for military drills before quickly removing the post and denying it had ever issued the news. But Iran has promised to retaliate for an Israeli strike in Syria on April 1st that killed several senior Iranian commanders when Israeli forces hit the Iranian embassy building in Damascus. There's been a lot of news coming out of the Middle East, too. I saw one tweet that said that Israel was pulling ambassadors. I haven't verified that, but it certainly seems like with all the news we got, we got Russia, we got Iran, we got China. Baby, World War III is right around the corner. The airstrike killed General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, who led the elite Quds force in Lebanon and Syria until 2016, according to Iran's Revolutionary Guard. It also killed Zahedi's deputy, General Mohammad Hadi Hajriahimi, trying to pronounce that right, probably getting it wrong, Hajriahimi, and 5 other officers. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said that Israel must be punished, and it shall be for the strikes on the embassy. He noted in his speech Wednesday for Eid al-Fitr that attacking an embassy means that they have attacked our soil. So let me just make that clear for all of you. They're saying outright, Israel attacked an embassy. Embassies are the territory of the nation for which represents an embassy. Like our embassies are U.S. soil. That's the way it works. There's a funny story about, I think it's George Washington. I think it was Washington. He vowed never to set foot in Britain again. So when they built a statue for him, they imported U.S. soil to put on the ground where they could plant the statue of George Washington. People take their territory very seriously. Now, I get it. A statue is very different from blowing up an embassy. Quote, the evil regime made a mistake and it should be punished and will be punished, he added, according to IRNA, the state news agency. Iran's main proxy group is Hezbollah, which is based in southern Lebanon and has been trading fire with Israeli forces almost daily since the war in Gaza erupted in October. Israel has not explicitly acknowledged it was behind the attack, but it has put its military on alert. And Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz, that's his name, really. Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz wrote on X, if Iran attacks from its territory, Israel will react and attack Iran. There are fears an open war between Israel and Iran could turn into a much broader conflict after Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz, said in apparent response to Ayatollah's promise of retaliation that Israel would respond if Iran attacks from its own soil. I love that. That wishy-washy. We know you're attacking us, but as long as it doesn't come from your soil, it's fine. Laughably absurd. While this is happening, U.S. support for Israel hits a new low as Iran threat looms. This from Newsweek. They say Israel's on high alert for the promised Iranian strike, which U.S. officials said on Wednesday could be imminent. Quote, we're going to do all we can to protect Israel's security, Biden told reporters. I got to ask you this. Look, I don't know why we're involved in Israel's wars. I think the reality is that Israel's a proxy state for the United States. And this is what I really can't stand about the Israel derangement syndrome people. They're like, Israel is puppeteering in the United States, and Jewish people working in media are pushing this, and AIPAC isn't registering. And I'm like, guys, correlation and causation. The United States uses Israel as a proxy in the Middle East. Okay, I think it's laughable that the U.S. is at the behest of Israel. No, Israel's at the behest of the U.S. Simply put, they say a new poll released this week shows that the American public support for Israel is waning across the political spectrum amid its devastating offensive on the Gaza Strip, a conflict that has unleashed fresh violence across the Middle East and put pressure on U.S. forces there. I got to admit, we face a rock and a hard place. Let me tell you something, my friends. I've been to Israel. I've been to Tel Aviv. Beautiful. And free. You walk around, you do what you want, and there's rules and there's laws and there's all that stuff too, but it's impressive. I've also been to other countries. I've been to Egypt and Morocco. Not that I've been to anything more serious, maybe Tunisia or Libya would be more serious, but, you know, for instance, in Egypt, they take their religious law very seriously. Not as seriously as some countries, but, for instance, you're not allowed to gamble or eat bacon. You, tourist, not allowed. At the hotel, they had bacon. I'm putting it in air quotes. So I go down for breakfast at the Hilton, and they have, tomatoes, eggs, bacon, or whatever. And the bacon is beef, no pork. They had a casino in the Hilton. This was wild. There was a casino. It was fun. I didn't game or play any games or anything. There were people playing some game. I don't know. I don't remember what they were playing. Blackjack, probably. And there was a sign at the front of the door saying, if you are Muslim, you cannot, if you are an Egyptian citizen, you couldn't come in. It was only for tourists. Crazy. I suppose they're fine with, what's the right word for someone who's a non-believer? Not someone who abandoned the religion, but they don't care. If you gamble, they take your money. But not if you're Muslim and not if you're a citizen of Egypt. But I say this because in Israel, things were nice. You know, it was relatively peaceful despite all the things that are going on. And I say this because I recognize the difficulty in, man, there is a real question of what happens if Iran attacks Israel. If the United States does not get involved, how do things spiral out of control, and where does that lead us? Ben Shapiro has warned of something akin to the Samson option, they call it. Iran attacks Israel. The U.S. says, look, we're not going to be involved. Israel then says, we will not be destroyed. Fires nukes, triggering a greater conflict for which we'll be roped into. Ben Shapiro's argument is that the U.S. should be involved to deter any potential escalation into World War III. Fair point. I really do think so. I don't know that I completely agree with that being the action we should take, but it is a point we must consider. Where are we better off? Stopping Israel's war from escalating by being heavily involved, or saying, you know what, you're on your own, putting Israel in a heightened sense, a heightened threat position, to which they say, okay, then hellfire it is. I'm not saying I agree with Ben. I'm saying he makes a good point, one that's worth actually contemplating. I'm not a big fan of American intervention into foreign countries. I do think, however, there are harsh realities we may not like to accept based on our morality. That is, me personally, America first. Close the border. Or I should say, secure the border. I'm actually for immigration. I just think unfettered, unchecked, illegal immigration destroys us. We want to secure the border. We want to bring back jobs. We want to bring our troops home. We want to get NATO to pay their fair share. I'm fine with international treaties and military alliances and all that stuff. That's obvious. But I don't like the idea of the U.S. being involved all over the world the way they are. Afghanistan, Iraq, big mistakes. Syria, big mistake. And then you take a look what's going on in Israel. And then there's a question of this. Okay, where we are right now is different from where we want to be. So I'll put it this way. I can sit here and say Donald Trump is the best president of my lifetime. And people will then say, oh, yeah, Tim, what about all the drone strikes he engaged in and the lack of transparency? Ha! You're not actually anti-war. And I'm like, dude, I'm taking the best I can get. Like, if there was a candidate who was polling double digits and was poised to win, who was going to do all these things domestically we thought we needed, and was 100% anti-war and had no record of drone strikes, sure, we could vote for him. But right now we have Donald Trump pulling our troops back from or setting a timeline for withdrawal from Afghanistan, getting our troops out of Syria, at least trying to, decimating ISIS. And they say, yeah, but he up drone strikes. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's what you'd expect as we're pulling our troops out. Imperfect, the best we can get. Which brings us to the current situation that we're in. I believe it would be beautiful to just be like, we should not be involved, and we're going to say, yeah, absolutely. Like Ukraine, why are we entering that conflict? Israel, we're deeply involved in that conflict. And I'd like to see us removed from it. I don't understand why we are funding Israel's wars or even involved. It's a foreign country. We should be worrying about ourselves. The problem and the reality is I don't have a good answer for you. I really don't. Because we are deeply involved. And there are American citizens and dual citizens who have been taken hostage. I don't know what to tell you. I'll just tell you this. It is not as easy to just say we cut funding 100% disappear. Because then the region destabilizes and then it's war and conflict. I will say the same thing of Afghanistan. I don't think the appropriate move was to just shut everything down and up and leave. We had talked about this numerous times when it was going down, and it is to slowly pull your forces back, slowly, and require the Afghan security forces to start picking up the slack on those key roles. Instead, Joe Biden abandons Bagram Air Force Base, allowing looters to come and pillage it, cutting off air support and logistics for pilots who abandoned their helicopters and just fled. Yeah, that was a terrible idea. So we can't do that. We can't do in Israel what Biden did in Afghanistan. But now we have a problem. Iran's threatening war, and here we are attached to the hip to this country we should not have been. So again, I'm not telling you I have a good answer. I really don't know. I'm saying consider the potentials. And that's why I said Ben Shapiro makes a good argument. Now, I know Ben Shapiro's biased on the issue. As a Jewish man who has family in Israel, he's deeply concerned about Israel being protected. Fine, fair point. But I do still think, regardless of that, there is a deep consideration we must make for if the U.S. right now says, you know what, we're cutting off all support, we're cutting all funding, and we're leaving, will Israel just say, then Sam's an option it is? And I'm not saying it's a good reason to stay. I'm saying consider what happens if that does. And maybe your answer is it's worth the risk. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I have a good answer. I'm just saying we really got to consider these things. I don't know that the end result of where we're at is going to be good. What I can say is, I guess, you don't want to go cold turkey. I mean, some things maybe, but I think right now I think it's fair to say like we're in a rock and a hard place. We're screwed over by the previous administration's support for the conflict in the Middle East, probably because they wanted to prevent China and Russia from being able to take this territory and access these resources. The U.S. wanted to surround Iran because the U.S. wanted to invade Iran. It was part of its plans. So they go into Iraq and Afghanistan. They provide massive support to Israel because Israel provides an intelligence operating base and weapons manufacturing for the U.S. for their operations in Israel. And now here we are staring down the barrel of not just war with Iran, but Russia and China as well. The U.S. bit off more than it could chew, and it is a disaster. And maybe the reality is it is just a disaster. And if that's the case, maybe we do just back down. And we say, we're done with this. We shouldn't have been here in the first place. I don't know what happens after that. I know with the fall of Afghanistan, China moves in and starts harvesting all that lithium. And here we are. Russia, from The Guardian, advising against travel to the Middle East. Here we go, baby. Russia on Thursday advised against travel to the Middle East, and German airline Lufthansa extended a suspension of its flights to Tehran as the region was kept on edge by Iran's threat to retaliate against Israel for an attack in Syria. I'm actually surprised that Germany has flights to Iran. I didn't realize that was a thing. Iran has vowed revenge for the April 1st airstrike on its embassy compound in Damascus. According to Reuters, Russia's foreign ministry told citizens they should refrain from traveling to the Middle East, especially to Israel, Lebanon, and the Palestinian territories. Quote, we strongly recommend that Russian citizens refrain from traveling to the region, especially to Israel, Lebanon, and the Palestinian territories, except in cases of extreme necessity. The tense situation in the Middle East region persists. So we get it. Here we go. The spokesperson said Lufthansa had decided not to operate a flight from Frankfurt to Tehran last week to avoid the crew having to disembark to spend the night in the Iranian capital. Lufthansa and its subsidiary, Austrian Airlines, are the only two Western carriers flying into Tehran, which is mostly served by Turkish and Middle Eastern airlines. Austrian Airlines, which flies from Vienna to Tehran 6 times a week, said it was planning to fly on Thursday, but was adjusting timing to avoid an overnight layover. Take a look at the flight patterns. This one's really interesting. You'll see that there are now flights that go from like Hong Kong, and they'll go up and they will turn right. You can't see my hand. Turn right to avoid flying over Russian airspace. I think we're at war. I think that's the truth. We are at war. They just don't want to admit it. Let me show you this. We do have this story here. I'll mention briefly. Iran is days away from becoming.
When you look at the first 4 years of the Trump administration, one of the problems was Trump had some bad advisors. Let's just leave it at that. He had some bad advisors. He had some rotten eggs, if you will, surrounding him. But two voices who I think are going to be major advisors and influencers on a potential second Trump administration are going to be Stephen Miller, who's one of the greats, truly, and then Vivek Ramaswamy, whose political stock continues to grow. So on the illegal immigration front, you heard Higgins talk about a plan to remove the illegal immigrants. Here's Vivek Ramaswamy. This is just common sense. This is just common sense. You identify a problem, you have a solution. You have an equal and opposite reaction. And so here's Vivek Ramaswamy explaining that last night in clip 2.
If you have had the largest mass illegal migration into this country in American history, then it stands to reason, Larry, that we require the largest mass deportation in American history as well. This isn't novel. We've had mass deportations under President Eisenhower. They worked. I think they will work in Trump's second term as well. And the trap that somehow the media has led the public to believe, and I think we had to explain to the public what's going on, is this is not compassion. This is cruelty. It is cruelty to Americans. It is cruelty to many of the Hispanic communities in America who came legally to this country, who are suffering the scourge of crime and other effects of that illegal mass migration. It's people in inner cities that are suffering, black, white, brown, and everything in between, Democrat and Republican included. The south side of Chicago converting local high schools into encampments for those illegal migrants. It is a rejection of American principles. We're a nation founded on the rule of law. And so I don't think that this is cruel. I think it is the compassionate thing to do, both for Americans and to stand for the rule of law. It's logical. End those incentives to be here illegally. Stop funding the sanctuary cities. Stop funding Central America until they stop the northward flow of migrants. You know what military we really need isn't the climate military. It isn't the climate corps. It's putting our own military on our own southern border. That's how we put an end to this border crisis. And I think those mass deportations are the moral thing to do for Americans. And we're on the right side of history with this one.
Nothing but net. Hole in one. 100%. I mean, that's it. Everything he just said there is absolutely correct. Now, we cover these stories all the time. I got another one here. Seattle turned a tennis court into a high school, into a massive, a tennis court at a high school, into a massive encampment to house illegals. So it's schools, it's veteran care facilities, it's American homeless shelters, it's local rec centers. Now it's high school tennis courts. Here, look at this one in clip 5. So they walk up at a high school, and it's a tennis court there, so that the high schoolers can play tennis. Not anymore.
Not a good situation, not a situation that we imagined ourselves in. We were at the church, and at the church we were living in similar, if not the same conditions.
So if you're radio, pull down the audio here. If you're radio, They're on the high school tennis court, school's high school tennis court, so, you know, the kids can play tennis. And it's filled with these tents that the illegal immigrants live in. By the way, where do they get these tents? Who's paying for the tents? Well, I guess it's the same old story. You're paying for the tents. And so, you know, those high school kids that might have dreamt of playing tennis for their varsity team or playing tennis in college, or who knows, maybe even the high hopes of one day competing as a professional. Well, those dreams are squandered. Why? Because you have to have illegal immigrants living on your tennis courts now. And they get more aggressive as they feel more entitled. And so an American journalist goes around recording, and they assault them, and they put boxes in their face, and they film them and threaten them and try to intimidate them. As now this camera woman, or excuse me, cameraman rather, is getting assaulted.
Look at this little soy boy. What's he doing?
And I'm sorry to say, but
So
we're
this
going
is
to-
happening all across the country. And rightfully so, Americans are ticked off. The question is, can they rightfully blame, can they rightfully find the source of this, the Democrat Party, the Biden administration? And will it have a political result or political ramifications when it comes to the 2024 election, as it should? Now, does this anger you? It angers me. It should anger you. It should anger every American that we're being sold out. Stephen Miller says it quite nicely in clip 3.
Yeah, Eric, I've got a pretty thick skin. And I have seen a lot, and I've heard a lot, and I've dealt with a lot. I've had the chance, serving President Trump, to spend a lot of time with American families who've lost a husband, wife, or a daughter to illegal aliens set free by Democrats. And when I hear commie progressive staffers typing out social media for the Biden campaign, leaping to the defense of illegal alien murderers, it brings my blood to a fever pitch boil. Donald Trump is standing there talking about monsters who murder children, monsters who rape little kids, and calling them animals. And some 23-year-old Brown University graduate in gender studies typing out online on behalf of Joe Biden, oh my God, Donald Trump just called immigrants animals. This is terrible. You are defending these vile predators when you say that.
So help
Donald
me out,
Trump is
Stephen.
condemning the
Help me out
worst
here.
behavior that could ever occur in this world, and you're defending it.
Now imagine, people still fall for this garbage. And this edit was so obvious. And they've edited Trump's statements and clips and put them out of context to attack Trump so many times. And they always get caught now. But this one was just blatantly obvious. I mean, to take a 5-second clip and then say, see, Donald Trump calls all migrants and immigrants animals, and it's just a tiny little 5-second clip. I mean, they are getting so desperate. They are getting so desperate. Man, and here's, remove politics from the equation. Remove politics, remove policy, because you can debate policy. I mean, you could hear a liberal debate why they think there should be open borders. When liberal Democrats are defending illegal immigrant murderers and rapists and gang members committing crimes, we're beyond policy, folks. We're beyond politics. We're entering a different realm of discussion entirely. We're entering a realm where you realize it's good versus evil. We're entering a realm where you realize that the average liberal Democrat now that would espouse this stuff is a soulless ghoul. They have no remorse for lying to you. They don't have any second thoughts about the trickery and deception they engage in. That is pure evil. That is pure deception, and they engage in it consciously. This isn't a rational debate about policy. This is a Democrat deciding they are going to consciously deceive you, manipulate information, and attack you when you dare try to speak the truth. And they have no remorse. They have no guilt. They could not care less. They have chosen their side. They are the bad guys. At some point in time along the way, in a hyper-partisan environment, you realize you get the choice, good guy or bad guy. They've chosen bad guy. They've made the choice. Why do you think people like Tulsi Gabbard are leaving the party? Why do you think people like RFK Jr. are leaving the party? Why do you think people like Elon Musk and Russell Brand and Joe Rogan are separating themselves from any liberal Democrat ideologies and policies? They realize these are the bad guys now. I'm not a bad guy. I'm not affiliating with the bad guys. I'm not touching this evil. I'm not into it. Not me. Doesn't mean they go right. Doesn't mean they agree with the policies of right-wingers. It just means they've made the realization that's obvious now. The American left is evil. They've made the conscious decision. They want to be evil. They want to deceive. They want to manipulate. They want to destroy. And so rational people that might be on the left are just stepping back and saying, I'm out. I'm out. You're not left anymore. You're evil. I'm out. But they don't get mad. How many times has this happened? Just in the last year, a minor gets raped by an illegal immigrant. A young woman gets killed by an illegal immigrant. I mean, there's dozens of these stories. And that doesn't upset them. What upsets them is when Donald Trump talks about it. What upsets them is when Marjorie Taylor Greene has a Laken Riley pin to bring awareness to it. That's what upsets them. The rape and the murder doesn't upset them. Says a lot. But hey, at least Joe Biden cares, right? Joe Biden was supposed to give a speech yesterday, and he was over an hour late. But why? Why was Joe Biden an hour late? Well, there's some signs, there's some evidence that show Joe Biden couldn't get out of bed. Here's Jesse Waters breaking it down.
Today, Biden overslept and was late to an 11 o'clock speech. He didn't show up until an hour later. And if you look closely, you can see the CPAP creases on his face. He wears a machine around his noggin to keep him breathing at night. He has sleep apnea. And if he has a creasy face at noon, he just got out of bed. He kept Bernie Sanders waiting an hour. That's either a power move by Biden or that's just sleepy. The president didn't fly home from a West Coast campaign stop last night late. Yesterday, the president did nothing. He had a phone call. That's it.
You just have to wonder how liberals and Democrats can support this. Have you no soul? Have you no conscience? Have you just completely separated yourself from truth and reality and common sense and rationale? Joe Biden had one phone call yesterday. That's it. That's all he did. He sleeps until 11. And they try to hide it. Just roll that footage again. By the way, it's not debated. They admit he wears a CPAP. They admit he wears a breathing device. It's not uncommon. But when you look at this, that you can tell they tried to cake on a bunch of makeup so that you couldn't see it, and it didn't take. So how long was Joe Biden sleeping for? 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours? Was he asleep from 11 last night to 11 in the morning? CPAP strapped onto his face. They tried to wake him up. He couldn't. By the way, this isn't the first time this has happened with Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been caught multiple times before big meetings where he has the CPAP straps on his face. It's happened when foreign leaders were in town and he showed up late for the meetings. That's a little more embarrassing than Bernie Sanders, perhaps. But he shows up late for those meetings and they don't have as much time to fix the makeup and try to puff his cheeks out. And the CPAP marks are even more obvious. So imagine you're a foreign leader. You travel across the world to come meet with Joe Biden. He shows up late, and then he shows up with these strap marks on his head because he just rolled out of bed at 10 in the morning. Not because he was busy, but because he's Joe Biden. It's an international embarrassment is what it is. You've got these images where Biden clearly is taking IVs and injections into his hands, and he's got marks all over his hands where they put it in. And then the lying media comes out and says, he's so fit. He's more fit than Trump. He's the most fit president of all time. His age is his strength. Can't get out of bed till noon. Has to have IVs into his arm regularly just to walk and talk. Yeah. I wish Trump would take Biden up on that offer for a round of golf. That'd be fun. What is Biden worried about? What are the Democrats worried about here with just some 216 days till the election? Democrats see abortion and marijuana juicing youth vote in Florida. So they're trying to get the youth out to vote for abortion and marijuana. They think that's the winning ticket. 214 days till the election, and Democrats are talking marijuana and abortion. Not economy, not energy, not foreign policy, not immigration. Abortion and marijuana. And they're going to take your menthol cigarettes. Biden White House close to finalizing menthol cigarette ban in the face of major pushback. Why do they want to ban menthol cigarettes? Well, they just want to ban everything. It's the party of bans. They put bans over Biden's face for his mask, his breathing apparatus, and then they put bans on the menthol cigarettes, but they want the marijuana. So marijuana good, campaign for marijuana. Menthol cigarettes bad, ban them. This administration is so wonky and out of whack, it's just insane. Latest oil prices, market news, and analysis. Oil holds near 5-month high after OPEC reaffirms supply cuts. Supply cuts. Supply cuts. The Biden administration has got this wrong at every turn. So Biden drains the strategic oil reserves for one reason and one reason only, to lower gas prices so that he doesn't take the political hit. And it was always strategic. He released the petroleum reserves ahead of the 2022 midterms so that Democrats didn't look bad. And the gas prices went down for a moment. Now they're back up at near record highs. And so he's got to make a statement. And so first Biden said, I'm releasing the strategic oil reserves because we're going to buy them back at a profit. Trump bought oil at $25 a barrel. Trump loaded up our petroleum reserves to a record high barrel. Trump loaded up our petroleum reserves to a record high at $25 a barrel. Biden sold them off to lower gas prices as a political stunt, sold them to the Chinese communists so that they didn't have to release their reserves. So he sold the gas to the Chinese. They put that gas out into the market. And then Biden says, oh, I'm doing this so that we can make a profit. And then he got the gas prices lowered as a political stunt. That was the whole entire move. So now that they're back up, and his plan for Biden to make a profit. So I guess sell the oil and then buy it back cheaper, except here's the problem. Now the price is $85 a barrel and encroaching on $90 a barrel. It was at $89 a barrel. So then Biden comes out and says, oh, don't worry. Biden comes out and says, oh, don't worry. We're engaged in negotiations with the Saudis and OPEC, and they're going to release more oil. Don't worry, folks. Biden comes out and assures the American people, don't worry, folks. We're negotiating with OPEC. They're going to release more oil. Gas prices will come down. And then what's OPEC's response? Yeah, we're actually cutting the supply. Yeah, actually, we're gonna stop pumping and releasing. Actually, we're gonna cut the supply. Oops, Biden got it wrong again. So at this rate, you're gonna start seeing gas get up to $5, $6, $7 a gallon. And how is the Biden administration gonna lie and cover that one up? I wonder. It doesn't matter. They'll lie and they'll cover it up and they'll deceive and they'll twist. And the average liberal Democrat will suck it up and then go to the gas station and pay $6 a gallon and then say, why is Trump doing this? Now, here's some good news, and I've often been curious of this, and I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't make the media if it was going on, but yet it did. Trump spoke recently with Saudi leader. Former President Trump spoke with Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, their first publicly disclosed conversation since Trump left office in January 2021. And I've often, now, when we come back, I'm going to get into some of this geopolitical news that's just not good. And it's really where we left off on Tuesday, but it's the same trajectory. But I've often wondered or hoped, is
Hot dog? Sure, dog.